No niin, kello on 9, niin ehkä ruvetaan aloittelemaan. Mun nimeni on Mika Ruuman ja mä oon tämän Retriever Suomen toimitusjohtaja. Retrieverhan on Suomessa nyt ollut jo vuoden ja 4 kuukautta, mutta muuten me ollaan Pohjoismaissa. Retriever on yksi, tai on itse asiassa johtava mediaseuranta- ja analyysifirma. Ja koska me ollaan tehty tätä työtä nimenomaan pohjoismaisesti jo vuodesta 1999 lähtien, niin siinä matkan varrella meille on kertynyt aika paljon osaamista ja tietoa ja verkostoja. Ja nyt tässä Retriever Akatemian järjestämässä tilaisuudessa, missä me puhutaan viestinnän mittareiden rakentamisesta, niin me halutaan nimenomaan jakaa tätä tietoa, mikä me ollaan saatu ja kerätty. Ja nyt puhutaan nimenomaan siitä, että miten rakennetaan viestinnän mittaristo sillä tavoin, että ne kestää myöskin kansainvälisen standardit ja ovat niin kuin ajan tasalla ja vastaavat siihen tarpeeseen niin, että niitä ei oikeastaan voi kyseenalaistaa. Jos vielä niin kuin Retriever Suomesta lyhyesti kerron, mehän ollaan nyt STT:n tiloissa ja meidän suhdehan STT on se, että he on meidän osakas. Eli heillä on 49% Retriever Suomi Oy:stä ja Retriever AB omistaa 51%. Ja sitä kautta meillä on myös vahva jalansija Suomessa meidät erilaistaa monista muista se, että meillä on myöskin vahva suhde mediaan Suomessa. Se näkyy esimerkiksi sillä tavoin, että me joka vuosi maksetaan satoja tuhansia euroja hyvityksiä siitä, että me saadaan käyttää heidän lehtimateriaalia niin, että se näkyy suoraan meidän palvelussa eikä tarvitse kirjautua mihinkään kioskeihin tai muuta mitään tällaista. Mutta oikeastaan niin kun nyt me ollaan täällä puhumassa ehkä pidemmällä menevästä tiedosta kuin pelkästään mediaseurannasta ja mun ilokseni niin sekin on meillä myös erittäin vahvasti kasvava osa bisnestä ja selvästi tälle on kysyntää. Sen kertoo ehkä sekin, että näin monta todella hyvää viestinnän ammattilaista on tullut ja kuluttamaan tänne niin arvokasta aikaansa ja mä kiitän siitä ja myöskin siksi niin lopetan tämän puheenvuoron ja päästään meidän pääpuhuja. So let me introduce to you Mrs. Kristina Nielsen, who is the Vice President of Retriever Group and also the founder of Retriever's analysis and measurement business. So I don't think that there can be a much better speaker than we have right now. So please enjoy. And maybe we give her a nice round of applause.
Well, thank you. It's very nice to be here in Finland. I work on a Nordic level in Retriever, so I travel a lot. So almost every week I go to another city in the Nordics, and usually it's warmer when I go to another city. So last week I was in Denmark, and it was really nice to come there and have a thinner jacket. Mm-hmm. But when I came here yesterday, I discovered that it was exactly the same freezing cold and wind as we have in Oslo. So, but that makes me feel like home. Yeah. So I just want to show you a few slides about Retriever before going to the topic that we are here for today. I guess that most of you have probably heard of Retriever before. So this is what we offer. It's a broad range of media analysis and media monitoring services, and we have been around in the Nordics for 10, 15 years. We are pretty new here in Finland, but we are a fast-growing company also here. And as Mika said, I'm from the analysis side of the organization. And can you read this, or is it too small for you? Yeah. So I will stand on this side, so I hope you can read. So Retriever's analysis department is the largest private environment within this field in the Nordic region, and we have around 50 media analysts. The largest department is in Sweden, and we have I think it's 10 analysts in Oslo, 25 in Sweden, and then some in Denmark, and here in Finland as well. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about the standardized method that we have in the industry all over Europe. We have established within our part of the industry, we have an organization called AMEC. So it's for companies like Retriever, also our competitors. We have established some method fundamentals within this AMEC organization. And they have awards also. So we compete really hard also there with our competitors to win the awards for the analysis works. And we have taken home some medals that we are very proud of. We do large and small scale projects for both public and private sector. And our analysis are both standardized and customized. So we have a method in the bottom that we lean on. With established rules for how we do it, and then on top of that we tailor for each client based on needs. And this is one of the Norwegian media analysts winning 2 awards. I think this was in 2015. And we work closely across the borders. So when we have a client, for example, when we have a client that has similar companies in other countries, we team the media analysts up so they can compare the way they do it and help each other. So for example, I heard that you represent a union. So whenever there's a client that within that field, the analysts talk to other analysts across the Nordics to hear if they have other union clients that they can learn from. And once a year we meet in Nordic Analysis Conference, so all the analysts go there. And this year the topic will be about AI and machine learning, because that's the newest to our methodology. So we have been starting to use machine learning in our media analysis, and so we are now training all of our analysts within that. So my name was, as Mika said, Kristina Frizvold Nielsen. I have been in Retriever for 10 years. I started to establish an analysis department in Norway, and after a few years we started one in Sweden, and then it has grown. So when I started in Retriever, it was 30 employees in total. Now we are almost 200. And as I said, 50 media analysts. And this picture is just to prove that I've been around for a while, because I started in the media sector when it was even no internet news. So these are news clippings from some of my first stories when I started as a reporter when I was 15 years old. And we were still smoking in the offices and faxing the stories between the offices. So maybe it's just that I'm starting to be old, or there has happened a lot in the media sector. Yeah, so on the agenda today, I thought I'd say a few words about why you should measure communication. You are here, so you are obviously interested in it. But let's just take a foot on the ground and just see if there are some good arguments to do it. And then I thought I'd go through the Barcelona principles. Maybe some of you have heard of those before, but that's that's some of the methodology that I mentioned that the AMEC Association has worked with. So it's 7 principles that serve as the basis for how you measure communication and evaluation and evaluate it. And then the AMEC integrated framework, it's a tool for how to evaluate a campaign or your activities through a year, or anything else related to communication efforts. So I will show you how to use the tool, and I will also give you some examples, some best practice use of the AMEC framework. So I have 3 cases. I have one case that is a standard AMEC case. It's for a client, but it's not Retriever's client because it's from Great Britain. So it's the Stroke Association, and it's a very good example. That's why I brought that. And also I brought another example from a Swedish client. It's UNICEF. I will also talk only briefly about that. But then I have an example that I will go a little bit more detailed through. It's a Norwegian client that we work very closely with, and it's the National Armed Forces in Norway, so it's the military. So whenever I talk about clients this way, when I tell you about how we work with them and how they work with communication, I always ask them before I reveal something, because otherwise everything that we in Retriever do for customers is of course confidential. So on Monday I sent an email to the military, and I know that I can use the example because I have done it before, and they have said yes, you can do it as much as you want to, because they are very much into sharing knowledge. So so I wrote them an email, and I just said that I just wanted you to know that I'm going to Finland, and I'll meet some clients there, and I'll tell them about the example. And the head of the communication was on the phone right away. So it was almost when I pushed the button, she was calling me and said, hold it. I just have to check that, because I was thinking Finland is not a part of NATO, and so just let me check with the sergeant if it's okay. And then a few hours later she sent me an email that it was okay. So I take it that we are still allies. So why should you measure communication? For you who probably work with communication as your daily job, or is into it in some way or another, you have probably put some thoughts into it, but I thought I'd provide you with some arguments that you can bring home to your organization as well. And the main reason is that it allows you to steer and control better. So measurement sort of helps the communication, or helps the company to obtain an overview. So you can go from guesswork and gut feeling to real insights. And I have a very good example of that, because a few years ago I was going to present an analysis together with a team in Norway. And we were going to a client that is, I guess you have something like that in Finland as well. It's the Directory for Education. So it's not the department, but the level under. So, and they are the ones that make all these tests for schools, national tests like PISA. They send out the PISA test and a test like that. And there has been a lot of debate about this. So for a few years ago, it was very much of negative coverage and discussions, but it has been better. So the team had made the analysis, and we were going there, and in the lobby we met one of the women that we know who is working in that department, and she was like, oh, I have not been looking forward to this, because we got so much negative coverage this year and it has been hard. And we were a little bit surprised, because that was not one of our findings. It was mostly neutral or positive coverage. So we said that this is not one of our findings. You will see once we start the presentation. And on the first slide it said that it was only 2% negative coverage. 3 stories was negative. And why was that? Why did she think that it was so much? It was because she was the one who had handled those stories, and that was even though it was only 3 stories, it was really negative because it was on prime time TV, and she was doing live appearance there, so she had to handle a mouthful there. So I guess that some of you have been in the fire before, and answering critical questions from journalists live is not really easy. So that's how we humans are. I mean, then we get really, she was filled with this. This was her only experience from that coverage. But when we showed her all the other stories and the tendency and the statistics, she changed perspective, and it was really important for her in the way that she perceived the whole picture. So it's a very good example of how you should not base the the experience on gut feeling, but rather on statistics. And also, of course, it facilitates communication efforts. It will, the statistics and measurement over time will show you, for example, which time of year is it easier to get coverage? What kind of stories do you have that gets more attention than others? And of course, in social media, what kind of stories does your company have that gets more likes, attention, awareness? Of course, so this is your whole base for learning. And also, regular measurement can function as a reminder of the task, because a lot of communication departments has many tasks within communication, and many companies are pretty small, and they have maybe only 1 or 2 persons working with communication, and then these people have all sorts of tasks like the intranet, HR tasks. So for example, this department of the directory of education, they also do HR surveys among employees about satisfaction within the company, for example. So it takes a lot of the time, but whenever they get the monthly report, they have to sit down, so they get focused, and a good reminder of the task that they have to work with PR as well. And finally, the results from evaluation and measurement can legitimize the use of communication resources. So you get a tool to argument with the management about resources, and you get a tool to prove to your organization what you do, what your impact is. So, the Barcelona principles. Have anybody heard of those before? Yeah, some of you have. It's easy, and some of them seem almost banal in the way they are made, but it's still very valuable, I think. And almost every week I meet clients who doesn't do this, so it's not so obvious either. But the first one is, it's about what I just talked about. Why should you measure? Because goal setting and measurement are fundamental to communication and public relations. Because otherwise you cannot improve your work. Otherwise you cannot target your actions. So of course you have to do this. And next, measuring communication outcomes is recommended versus only measuring outputs. This means that it's not so important what you do, it's the impact that counts. So let's say that you send out 10 press releases. Well, that's good, but that's not the basis of the evaluation, because you have to measure the coverage, of course. How much coverage did you get because of these press releases? And then you should go one more step and then check if your message came through in that coverage. And finally, you should also try to in some way measure what impact that had on your audience, on the target group that you wanted to reach. How did they perceive it? So that's what this point is about. You should measure output, you should measure outcomes rather than output. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to show you the Barcelona principles before going to the framework, because the framework is built on this this common ground, that this is very important. So you will recognize the way of formulating this. Number 3, the effect on organizational performance can and should be measured where possible. So that could be sales numbers if you work for an commercial organization. It can be values. It can be how you are perceived. It can be increasing members if you represent an association. But you should in some way try to measure the connection between your actions and how your company is doing. And then number 4, measurement and evaluation require both qualitative and quantitative methods. So when it's quantitative, you only count. So that's the 10 press releases or the 40 news clippings that you got because of the press releases. But also the qualitative part, how did your message come through? What type of spokespersons did you have, and how did they communicate the messages? The tendency, of course, in the coverage and so on. So in Retriever, we always combine those 2 elements. Of course, you can order a simple statistic reports, and we will deliver that. But we will always recommend that you have some sort of qualitative elements within the analysis reports. And you can, of course, do it yourself also. Use the portal that we have or other tools to measure yourself. But either way, this is important. Number 5, AVEs are not the value of communications. Have you heard of AVEs before? Yeah, some of you. So when you have a newspaper, this is a really old way of doing it, really not the modern way, but it used to be so that in our industry you measured by looking at the newspaper, and you have let's say you have a column on the side with a news story about your organization, and let's say that it costs 5,000 euros to advertise in that column. So then this is counted as the price for the coverage. And there's a lot of pitfalls and flaws about that way of doing it. And we used to do it in Retriever a long time ago, but we haven't introduced it to the Finnish market. And what I've seen from traveling around and meeting clients in different countries is that maybe Finland is the country where this is less spread. So actually you're fortunate there because it's not a good method. So in Norway and Denmark, we still have lots of clients who use this and have a hard time laying over to other methods. So whenever you hear about this, just forget about it. It's not a good method. I could have talked for an hour about that, but it's if you are interested, there are numerous science published. What is it called?
Variables?
No, I mean
Articles.
yeah, like science articles that are published about this, about how this is not working. So there are professors who have been digging into it and trying it and found that it's not good. So number 6.
I'm sorry, what do the letters stand for?
Oh yeah. What does it stand for again? Advertisement value.
Equivalent.
Equivalent.
Advertising value equivalent.
Yeah. So how do you say it in Finnish?
Mainosarvo.
Okay. Yeah. Social media can and should be measured consistently with other media channels. So when I said that these principles are almost banal, it's because obviously you have to measure social media. But I think that maybe this principle is the one that it's sinned most against. I think maybe only 25% of the analysis reports that Retriever deliver has some sort of social media elements in it. And it's of course because it takes time to change the method. The budgets within the organization are tailored to the traditional media, but we encourage all of our clients to try to steer more towards social media also, because you have to measure it, and more and more companies are putting resources into social media tasks, so you should measure it as well. And the last one, measurement and evaluation should be transparent, consistent, and valid. So I think that any serious provider of media analysis should have a method description within the reports. It should be possible for anybody else to try to do it and prove if the findings are right or wrong. It should be easy to understand, and this is a rule that of course science follows, and also we should follow in our field. So, the integrated evaluation framework. Has anybody seen it before? No. So, what happened was that the AMEC Association, where Retriever and other competitors and several other actors within the field of measuring and analysis, got together and established this tool, so all our clients can use it across the industry. And that's what's really good about it. So I recommend this very highly, and I know that our competitors do also, which is a good base, because then we can be then we agree on something that is really good for you as clients, because you are not attached to us. If you are our client, you can also do it yourself. So it's sort of like setting the client free. There are several tools out there that I could have recommended. Why we recommend this is also because it's free. It's easy to use. I will show you. It's almost, you can just get started when you come back to your office. Also it's based on science. So what AMEC did was that they gathered a lot of stories. They asked all of us company members to send them stories about what we think our clients would like in a tool like this. And also they had a professor to join them. He's from Australia. It's called Jim McNamara. He's one of the most acknowledged professors within this field in the world. So he brought the science findings. So it's sort of like, it has the academic touch, even though it's really easy to use. So that's what I like about it. And this is the address. So what I have done is that I took some screenshots, because it's easier than if I should log in and maybe the internet is down and it's really boring for you. But this is the address. You can go there yourself when you're home, and it's easy to find everything there. And I can also send you the slides afterwards, minus the client slides. So that's it. And once you go there, this is the tool. So I'll read it in case somebody cannot see that good, but this is objectives, inputs, activities, outputs, outtakes, outcomes, organizational impact. And this is actually the tool. So I will go through it step by step with you now, just to explain it. But it's also here, on the menu you can find explanation tutorials, and you can find explanations of all the words and the terminology, and also best practice cases. I think there are maybe 10 cases there from other clients, so it's really valuable. You can choose language here, and you see the flags, so they indicate the different languages. Finnish is not here. If it's a comfort, then Norwegian is not either. But you can find Swedish. Maybe some of you have that as a mother tongue. But feel free to ask me now if you have questions regarding the words. And Evi can also explain it in Finnish, because I think sometimes it's good to know what it is in your mother tongue. But And here it says login and register. You don't have to do that. You can use it without registering also. But here you have a button that says save progress. So if you register, you are able to save all of your work, and you can use it on several campaigns, and you can leave your computer and it's still there. So if you just go in there and just try and start working and writing, then it will disappear if your computer, for example, shuts down. So that's good to know. But what you actually do is that you fill in information here in the boxes. So today I will show you examples of campaigns, but you can also use it for example, all of your PR tasks throughout the year. But it's easier to show you campaigns. So you start with the objectives, and it sort of asks you questions about what you should fill in. So it's easy. So the first one is, so when you push this red, then this opens. And it says organizational objectives. What are the overall objectives of your organization? So if it was Retriever, I would have said the overall objectives is to create value for our owners by providing this and this services. Communication objectives still. What are your communication objectives for this program? It means for this campaign, for this year. So yeah, in this campaign we will reach a new target audience about this product, for example. And if you are confused, then you push the I button, and you get definition of what it means. And also you can, I think it's here in resources, you get the whole explanation step by step, also with definitions on the whole tool. And then on inputs, I will show you a whole filled out a spreadsheet afterwards. But here on inputs, they ask you what kind of resources do you have, what kind of budget do you have, or how many people will work with this, and you fill out what you bring to the table. And then on the green one, activities, it's here. So it says list all the key activities that you will or did undertake. And this follows the PESO thumb rule. And I guess that some of you have heard of it before. It's really useful actually. It's from science, so it's based on work within the field and several tests and how people use communication tools. But so PESO stands for paid, earned, shared, and owned, which is a way of sorting activity tasks within communication. So P stands for paid, it's commercials or advertisement. So let's say that you, this is a social media campaign, and you pay for some Facebook advertisements towards some of your target audiences, for example. That's paid. So then you click P and you write Facebook ads. And the next one is earned. And earned is what you what you deserve. In Swedish they say förtjänad, which means that you deserved it. That's the same word. So it's coverage that you get mainly from traditional media about something that you did. So it's what you earn. You cannot buy that. Otherwise, if you can, then it's not journalism. And share is it's channels that you share. So maybe you have maybe you cooperate with another organization about a campaign or about a task or something. So then it's shared. And the last one is owned. So it's what you own yourself. For example, your homepage. That's an owned channel. So that's the PESO. And you can go back to your office and Google that, because it's really useful to read some articles about the PESO thumb rule. It's good. So here you list all of it, and as I said, you fill out all of the boxes, And then once you push submit, it's finished. It's filled, and it's like this. So this is the Stroke Association in Great Britain, who actually filled out all the boxes about the campaign. I thought I'd share it with you. I'll send it around so you can read easily. And this is the best way of showing you how the tool should be used. And I had a presentation in Sweden once, and there was a woman there who was asking questions all the time. You can do that as well, by the way. Just ask questions along the way. She did it all the time, and she was really engaged. And when I said, okay, so you push the submit button and this is it, she was really disappointed. She was like, what? Is this it? Oh, is this everything? And I was like, hey, yeah, what did you expect? I expected animations and pictures and diagrams. Okay, but that's sort of like what's behind it. So you don't get that if you don't, yeah, what you put in, you get out. But it seems really simple, right? But it's because you get a good overview. So let's look at the red ones. So I can go back here so you know. Yeah. So on the red one here, that's what we put in here. And the Stroke Association wrote that the overall objective is that they prevent strokes and achieve life after stroke through providing services, campaigning, education, and research. It's sort of like their mission. You probably have that already written, so you can just copy paste. Communication objectives is for this campaign. They said that they wanted to raise awareness of stroke, mini-stroke, and the role of Stroke Association. So they wanted to grow and engage with stroke community and encourage people to contact Stroke Association. So that was what they wanted with this campaign. Then they filled out the yellow one, the inputs, which I said was sort of what you bring to the table. So first they filled out the target audience. Who do you want to meet with this campaign? Of course, the general public, but in particular, business leaders. And of course, people affected by stroke. They also wanted to reach charity supporters, maybe because they are good ambassadors or maybe because they give more money. They also wanted to meet and reach Black minority ethnic groups, which is explained in the next box, strategy. First, they say that mini-strokes can be precursor to major strokes but are often ignored. So they wanted to do something specifically with that. And ethnic groups are at greater risk but have not been successfully reached by previous campaigns. So that was their strategy. And you see that this is not something that you just write down really fast. You have to work with the strategy, of course, but once you have it, you can easily fill it out. And also this tool sort of helps you to find the strategy, helps you to point out what you have to have in the bottom to deliver on a good campaign. Because if you start filling it out and then, I'm not sure about the strategy, then you don't have what you need for a good campaign or a good communication plan. And yeah, and then on activity, they didn't actually put in so many activities. And mostly it's on earned media, because you can see the E, so they chose the E, traditional media engagement, launch of mini-stroke research report. It's really smart. Almost all communication campaigns should have some sort of launching with new numbers or statistics, because you get really good coverage about that. And then they had celebrity support, one of the examples that I will show you later. They did that also. And yeah, social media engagement, yeah. And so on the blue one, the first blue one, the output, that's where this is what people used to think that measurement was about. You know, we used to do only this. Now we do all of this, but we used to be here. How many articles did you get? How many percent of those were positive? And so on. So here they list that they had 639 proactively generated articles. How many of those mentioned their messages, and so on. So that's the output. So this is really strictly divided between the output and the outcome, which I mentioned earlier in the Barcelona principles. And the next one is outtakes. And you can see that the headline is audience response and effects. So the difference between outtakes and outcomes is sort of like the outtakes is how your audience respond, awareness, likes, attention, while the next one is what they act on. So if they click like on a post in social media, then it's outtake. If they sign up and becomes a member of the Stroke Association, then it's outcome. So that's the difference. And then finally the purple one, impact. They say that this is where you prove that the campaign was actually successful. They mention, for example, that the campaign met objectives of recruiting volunteers and growing stroke community, improved understanding of how to reach Black and minority ethnic groups, and secured budget for future campaigns. So this is it. This is actually the framework. So what I will show you now is a case. This is just something that I will mention, because what UNICEF did was that they really adopted the framework, but they don't use it like this. It's not every client that uses this look and feel. It's not for every client. I have seen that. So, and for UNICEF, that didn't really work, because they have communication departments in whole countries in the world almost in some way, and it varies, of course, how they use tools like this. So what UNICEF did was that they established a methodology that is written based on all of these ways of doing it, but then the communication departments in each country are free to do it and show it and write it the way they want to. So our Swedish analysis department, they deliver this. It's too little to read, but it's not important either. It's in Swedish also. But what they do is that this is how they measure the output. So this is the news coverage, and this is the topics. So for example, this is a fire at the nursery home in Guatemala. This is refugees in Syria. Is it possible to see anything here? No. And then they explain it here and just show it on a map, just to, or this is Retriever, what we do for them, but they established this and wanted it to be like this, and we developed it further. And this is article examples. So it's not so different from other reports that we do. The only difference is that they wanted us to use the words and the terminology. So we call it output, and when we follow it up and measure how it's perceived in the audience, we call it outcome, and so on. So that's one way of doing it. But then I have this other example. This is from the Norwegian Armed Forces homepage. It's in Norwegian. I will translate it for you. So what it says is F-35 technology for the future. If some of you speak Swedish, you will recognize that it's not so different from Swedish, at least these words. So it says F-35 with F-35A on Norwegian soil, the Norwegian military defense will get one of the world's most advanced war airplanes in its fleet. And here on these pages you can read more about why F-35 is sovereign on many areas. So the campaign is about Norway receiving war airplanes. some 10 years ago or something, the state decided that we needed new war airplanes. And there was a large discussion on what kind of planes to buy. Should we buy the JAS Gripen from Sweden, or should we buy the F-35 from the United States? And ended up with buying from our ally, the United States. There was a lot of political discussion about this, and we have waited for these planes for 10 years because it took so long to make it. And then in November, now in 2017, the planes arrived and was delivered. So the campaign that the Norwegian Armed Forces did and used this framework to do was about those planes coming. So this is some of the airplanes. I think it was maybe 50 airplanes in total. And this is the largest investment on Norwegian mainland ever. It's so unbelievably expensive. So of course there was a lot of political debate about this. And also the military minister had talked during the recent years. She had talked about the challenges of defending Norway and what the military needed, and she did it because she needed more resources. But the effect was that the public thought that the military weren't able to defend Norway. So the satisfaction when they measured it in the population, it fell, because she had to do this, I think, politically. But the result was that there was a loss in the confidence in the military. So this is from one of the presentations that they did themselves, the communication department in the military defense. And what they said is that they needed to get the story out there first about the planes coming. And they had the entire population as a target group, and they wanted to use this event, this opportunity, to increase the faith in the military defense again. So, and there had been so much debate about these planes, you know, what kind of planes to buy, the noise that these planes were going to make, where to situate them in, or base them in Norway, and so on. So a lot of debate about this. So they wanted to sort of like establish a new faith in it. And they used the framework all along. So they made it, they made a strategy while using this. And then these are some of the activities that they did. So they made a magazine that they delivered to I think over 50% of the households in Norway. And they used celebrities to be there when the first planes arrived. So this is the Norwegian king and some of the highest, I don't know, leaders in the military. They made stories with several different angles about the planes, everything from, you know, very hard stories on how the planes are made to more soft stories about defense and the ability to defend Norway as a nation. And it was a real success. So they got 500 articles during the first half of November. So the planes, I don't know, I don't remember the date, but it was in the middle of November that the planes arrived. They got coverage all over Europe about this, and of course it helped that the what is it called, the general leader of NATO, he's a former state minister of Norway. So he also talked about this in the European media. And they actually found, when they did the surveys, that the overall impression about the military in Norway actually was better in November. So here is November. So when I ask the overall impression, it significantly increased. and they asked, do you think that the military can safeguard Norwegian sovereignty? That increased, and also the ability to defend Norway. People thought that it was better after seeing these planes coming. So, and you know, it could have been a disaster also, because it could have been only political debate about these planes. It could have been, the media could have focused only on the expenses and everything. So you know how hard it is to control this, but this was really a success, almost like propaganda. And finally, the impact that it had was that the number of applicants to the Royal Air Force education program was record high. And this is a special target group, because they don't, the young ones, they don't almost not read newspapers, traditional newspapers. So this is due to the social media campaign, that they actually got the new traditional news stories out in social media. And finally, they made a sum up like this. So you see that it's even simpler than this. So they did their own look and feel. So this I got from the presentation that they held for the department, the military department in Norway. So so they even made it simpler, but it's the same terminology. You can see that. So it's inputs, activity, outputs, outtakes, outcomes, and impacts. So what they mentioned as inputs, because this obviously was a really large campaign, so they only highlighted the most important ones. But they say that the previous media analysis showed that the media coverage was mainly critical. And also another input is that previous population surveys showed that the impression of our ability to defend Norway and safeguarding Norwegian sovereignty had decreased. This was before the campaign. And the chief goal in the communication plan was to show how valuable the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter was in the future defense. And the activities was the magazine that you saw that was distributed directly to 600,000 households. And that's activity, you know, because here it doesn't say anything about how people perceived it. Did they just throw it in the garbage? I did. It was before I knew that it was our client that did this campaign. Of course, they mentioned social media activity. They actually made a documentary on the TV channel Max, or this is a journalistic project, so they sold it in, and it is editorial news piece. Information to employees on internet, and a ceremony with celebrities. And then the outputs that came from this was that, yeah, the 500 articles in only 2 weeks, the documentary that was seen by 100,000 people, yeah, and several others. And the outtakes was that Facebook created general interest, a lot of posts, shares, clicks, and comments. And the outcome was that, yeah, about this magazine, the reader test showed that out of the 35% who started reading the magazine, 70% read at least half of it. And increase in the coverage of the capabilities of the aircraft. And 1/3 of the articles were positive in tone, which is very unusual and very good. And the impact was that the population survey showed that 5% points increase in overall impression, also increase in impression of ability to safeguard, and the other that I mentioned. So this is basically how you should use the framework. I think that Mika has some final words, but before that, do you have any questions about anything of this? No. So I'll be around if you want to ask me anything. But I think that you have something on your mind also.
Yeah, thanks. Joo, tosiaan niin olemme melkein lopussa. Mä ajattelin vielä niin kuin muutaman sanan varastata suomeksi. Ja täällä on mulla apuna myöskin meidän analyysiosaston vetäjä Eevi Alanissi, että jos on kysymyksiä, nyt niin kuin mennään ehkä vähän lähemmäs sitten käytäntöä, että miten lähteä liikkeelle. Ja tietysti niin kuin tässä nyt sanotaan, miten Retrieverin kanssa, totta kai me toivotaan, että voidaan olla teille apuna, mutta yhtä hyvin nämä ideat voi varastaa ja koettaa lähteä itsekin. Mutta oikeastaan niin kuin kaksi semmoista niin kuin perusarkkitilannetta on se, että ja yksi niistä on se, että tavallaan ei tiedetä missä ollaan. Ja me pystytään löytämään sitten, olemaan teille tämmöinen niin kuin kompassi tai sijainen löytäjä. Eli tehdään tämmöinen niin sanottu lähtötilan mittaus. Me ei välttämättä tiedetä, joko niin kuin tämä voi olla, että koko organisaation ala on uusi tai asiat on muuttuneet niin paljon, että täytyy niin tavallaan määrittää uudestaan se, että missä me ollaan. On myöskin se, että jos strategia muuttuu tai on vaikkapa joku fuusio tai muu tilanne, niin yhtäkkiä ollaan niin aivan uudessa paikassa ja täytyy määrittää uudestaan se, että missä ollaan. Tai sitten tämä voi olla niin kuin joku pieni osa organisaatiota, esimerkiksi joku kampanja tai uusi tuote ja pitää löytää, että missä se liikkuu sen lanseerauksen yhteydessä. Ja tämmöisessä me ollaan oltu paljon mukana yhtä lailla niin sosiaalisessa mediassa kuin perinteisessä mediassa, niin ollaan määritelty. Ehkä somessa ne on vielä tyypillisempiä, että jos organisaatiot hakee sitä paikkaa ja esimerkiksi hakee sitä, että missä niin kuin meidän toimialasta puhutaan, ketkä puhuu, mitä tämmöistä, niin tämmöisen niin lähtötilanne, että sit pystyy suunnittelemaan sen viestintästrategian niin, ja suunnitelman niin ihan tiedon pohjalta, niin tämmöinen on ollut yleensä hyvä tapa lähteä liikkeelle. Toinen asia on sitten se, että vaikka mittaristo olisi jo kunnossa ja tiedettäisikin, että missä mennään ja näin epäilemättä niin kuin suurimmalla osalla teistä on, niin on kuitenkin niin, että mittaaminen ja niin kuin media ja kaikki tämän ympärillä muuttuu koko ajan ja myöskin tavoitteet muuttuu. Ja erityisesti jos tavoitteet muuttuu, niin myöskin mittariston pitää mukautua siihen mitkä on ne tavoitteet. Ja niin kuin tässä nyt on ehkä tullut esille, niin vaikka Retrieverilla on tietty metodologia, johon me nojataan, niin kuitenkin jokainen mittausratkaisu on aina kuitenkin asiakaskohtainen. Eli mitään semmoista niin kuin one size fits all tyyppistä ei oikein voi olla, eikä mun mielestä pidä olla. Esimerkiksi tästä esimerkki on esimerkiksi just tämä, tässä on ihan riittävästi parjattu AVE, mutta se ei niin kuin yksinään ainakaan ole kyllä sopiva mittari niin oikeastaan mihinkään. Se antaa kyllä kivan euromääräisen tuloksen, mutta mistä sitten oikeastaan kertoo? Se on ehkä kysymys. Onko sulla Eevi vielä jotain, mitä haluat lisätä tähän?
Ei, no mun mielestä aika hyvin paljon on itse varsinkin viime aikoina just sitä, että kun ajatellaan, että niin kuin mistä se mittaaminen lähtee liikkeelle, niin ehkä niin kuin mun mielestä olennaista on se, että kun lähdetään miettimään viestintämittareita, niin tulee nimenomaan ihan alun perin sieltä koko organisaatiostrategiasta. Eli kun mietitään viestintästrategiaa, niin se pitää aina miettiä linjassa sen kanssa, että mikä meidän organisaation kokonaiset tavoitteet on. Eli helposti lähdetään niin kuin syleilemään maailmaa siitä, että meidän pitäisi ihan kauheasti tehdä kaikkea. Mutta itse asiassa kannattaa keskittyä siihen, mikä on sen oman organisaation keskeisimmän tavoitteen kannalta tärkein asia. Mikä edistää parhaiten sitä myyntiä tai sitä, mitä jää sinne viivan alle, tai mikä tuo eniten niitä jäseniä, tai mikä se onkaan niin se pohjimmainen syy, minkä takia siellä organisaatiossa toimitaan. Ne tulee sieltä ne viestinnän tavoitteet. Ja sitten kun teillä on ne viestinnän tavoitteet, niin sen jälkeen me voidaan sovittaa niihin ne mittarit. Ja me siis todella käytetään tuota frameworkia, tätä niin kuin viitekehystä ihan päivittäin kaikkien asiakkaiden kanssa ja meidän metodologia nojaa siihen. Eli ehkä niin kuin enemmänkin sillä tavalla, että hei, täällä ollaan sparrausapuna, jos kaipaatte ja niin kuin saa nykyä hihasta ja saa kysyä ja mielellään autetaan.
Okei. Onko vielä, nyt Kristiina tietysti kysyi jo, että onko kysymyksiä, mutta jos nyt vielä on tai haluaa kysyä suomeksi, niin sekin on, ja voin totta kai tarvittaessa vaikka kääntää Kristiinalle, jos hän tuntuu parhailta vastaan. Mutta ilmeisesti tämä on ollut niin.
Well, this is not directly about the measuring, but something you mentioned this cross-country borders cooperation.
Yeah.
Like for example, my company works in Finland and Sweden and Poland and Estonia, and especially between Finland and Sweden, like we would like to have more of a
More
things together.
information, yeah.
So if you could
tell a little more about that, how it goes on practical level, and how much is it done?
Yeah, what kind of companies that you represent? Is it public?
No, we are a mining company. You probably we actually use you in Sweden.
Okay, what is it called?
It's Nordkalk. So we have the famous Scotland case that you might be aware of.
Yeah.
Open inquiry for 12 years.
Yeah.
It has taken now, and it will not be opened, it looks like.
Okay. So what we do is that if we have a client that is a client in several countries, then we actually put the team together and they work very close. So let's say that they get an analysis in both Sweden and Finland and Denmark, as an example. Then those media analysts have regular meetings. They do it the same way, so you get one report and maybe one country-specific report in addition. So this we tailor to your needs. But in other ways we also cooperate. Like I said, if we got, like say this I mentioned it as an example, this directory of education. We also had the directory of education as a client in Sweden, but those are two, of course, totally different clients, because it's the Norwegian state and the Swedish state. But then the analyst that works in the two countries, they talk together and just share knowledge, because it's of course a lot of similarities. So then they can learn from each other, and they tell their client this, and they can also share it if they know each other, because sometimes they do, because they also cooperate. So it's a good way of working.
And we also pick out the differences. If there are differences in the media landscape, for example, in Finland and Sweden, then it's easier for us to sort of point them out to the client, because we share the information all the time and the report is the same.
Yeah. So. And also we try to cover the trends also in the media landscape, so we know a little bit about the differences between the countries. So let's say in Denmark it's very much more common to have a more blending between journalism and advertisement, if you see what I mean. In I think here in Finland is more like in Sweden and Norway, where you are very strictly, you divide those two. So you can get confused if you just read if you have a company that also is in the Danish market, you could get a little bit confused because it doesn't work exactly the same. Then we can describe this in the report, so it's easier to understand. Yeah.
So you focus a lot on the Nordic countries. What about the other world?
Yeah, we can also provide analysis from other parts of the world. Of course, I couldn't claim that we know that much of the whole world, but we have partners in the most important markets. So we have partners in United States, the UK, Canada, and so on, and also in China, which is an important market. So, but then we are dependent on them to also deliver to us. But we have this established cooperation, so we can easily set up deliveries. So let's say just to take an example, in a crisis, like for example the Panama Papers, we had clients who had to very quickly set up monitoring in other countries because of that. And we were able to do that in maybe 24 hours or something, because it's because we have partners in those countries. Yeah.
Also, in this industry, it's basically so that no company is so large that they have an office in every country. So it is Retriever is very much operating in the same way. And for instance, AMEC, which we have been talking a lot about, is one of those that facilitates building these partnerships. And of course, we prefer to work with those that work along the same methodology than us, when we are talking about international analysis, so that they are also AMEC compliant.
Yeah, so we know where to call. For example, I had a client who established an office in Australia, which is probably as far away as you can get. But I know the analysis manager in the largest monitoring company there, so I could easily call her and she could tell me a little bit about the differences in the landscape, so I could sort of translate that to the client in a Nordic how we perceive it. Because it was easy for her to give me examples from other companies that we know, so it helped them in the startup phase. Now they are very well established and they probably know more than me about the media market down there, but it's easy to get started, at least that way. Other questions? No. I'll be around so you can ask me afterwards also if it's more organizational specific and you don't want to take it in the plenary. Thanks.
All right. No, sitten tässä tapauksessa niin kiitän teitä ja teidän ajastanne ja toivottavasti tästä oli teille hyötyä ja meistä oli joka tapauksessa aivan mahtavaa, että te saavutte paikalle. Jos vielä haluatte, niin siellä löytyy vielä tarjoamisia, voi syödä vaikka lounaankin tässä. Ja totta kai nyt retrieveriläiset, jotka tuolla takarivissä on, niin on myöskin täällä niin teitä auttamassa, jos on sit kysymyksiä siitä, että niin viestinnän mittaamisesta tai mediaseurannasta tai mistä vaan.
By the way, do you get the material?
Yeah, but I have to take out the client
I know.
part only.
Because it was very interesting.
Yeah,
very
so we can send that.
Yeah. I'll take care of it.
Kiitoksia.
Kiitos.
Kiitos.